the question is, how can artificial intelligence increase your profitability? Because we all need more money. Have you seen where the dollar is at the moment? Things are crazy. And how can it improve your employability? Because trust me, it's enough of the tarmacking. All right, we keep recycling jobs amongst, it's enough. So we need to improve our profitability and we need to improve our employability. Evelyn Nyarwai, AI integration expert, Charlotte Kepedisa, all the way from South Africa, head of big data and artificial intelligence at Safaricom PLC. Both of them are here. And the fascinating part, right, is Charlotte will be completing studies, postgraduate studies at MIT shortly, and then going on to a PhD, which she'll unpack for us in a bit. And Evelyn was in marketing. She studied broadcasting, Now she's an AI integration expert. There is hope. Do not lose hope. These women are here to prove, yes, you can. Tell me a little bit about that transition, Evelyn.
Yeah, absolutely. One, I'll say it wasn't easy. And I think it never is. Transitioning from something completely different. But I think we were having this conversation and we were saying every 2 years, you need to upskill, because every 2 years there's a new skill in the market that you're not being competent on.
And you are hungrier people.
And there's every 2 to 3 years, there's a cycle of new graduates who are put to market. So if you're not upskilling, then there's a cycle of 3 years batch and another 3 years batch that's leaving you and leading you. That's leaving you behind, right? So when I was transitioning from marketing, I started to get an interest. And I think this is where the power of mentorship, right? And particularly, actually, my mentor at this particular time was someone younger than I was. But I admired him because he successfully also transitioned from marketing to tech.
Your brother? Was it your brother?
Unfortunately, it wasn't my brother.
Oh, okay.
But it was a guy who I deem as a brother, let's say.
Yeah.
So he had successfully transitioned. So I asked him, how can I do this? And one of the things he told me is, don't look for something too complex. Try and transition into something that comes naturally to you. Build on the skills that you already have. And I was already a marketer. I was good with communication. I was good with planning things. So then I figured, let me transition into product management, which was easy because there's a lot of soft skills that are associated with product management. And then once I was in product management, in a tech company, it was easier for me now to sit down with engineers and get a good feel of what happens in tech, right? And then from there, then it has been a job of upskilling and upskilling. So what I do is, before I make a transition, because I've also made a transition, from product management to actually being a digital transformation specialist, is I have to learn before I start looking for positions in which I want to move into. So I set a goal. I want to grow into X. And then, manifest it.
Yes.
And then you
vision board.
Yes, you vision board it. And then you learn for it. You prepare yourself for that position. So every year I live online courses. Every single time I'm upskilling to either learn a new skill that in my current role or a new skill that I want to transition in. And I think I'd like to break, the mentality that you have to have studied IT in order for you to do tech. Because actually we come to realize some of our best developers have either been self-taught, they didn't go and do IT in campus, because I also think our system is a bit broken. If you get, your standard people coming in from the main universities, they still have to learn a lot.
Yes.
So you find that the best developers you have are people who are self-taught, who have put in the effort. And most of the time, someone did some random course, but then now they're in tech. Someone did psychology, and then now they're in tech.
I did psychology in a couple of years. I'm going to be in tech. I see that Charlotte is vehemently nodding her head as you were saying that you're continuously learning and online learning. Tell me about some of the courses or some of the sites that you visited.
Yeah, so I did a project management course, PM certification, and then I also did a product management course because I needed to upskill in that. And then now continuously what I did was started doing courses online. So I also leverage a lot of LinkedIn courses because they allow you to quickly access information from a business point of view.
LinkedIn keep
Right?
sending me prompts that since you're interested in X, you should go on. And I keep
should.
ignoring them.
You should, because they use AI to recommend those products
Yeah,
to
they
you.
do. I would have
You
been
should.
so much better at life. Are they free? What are the costs involved in these courses that
So
you
you
usually
actually
take?
pay a LinkedIn premium to access their LinkedIn platform, learning platform.
Yes.
And I think it's about, so my company pays for it. We're actually very, we
I am
believe
going to
in the
lobby
power of learning.
management, Standard Media Group management. We're going to be lobbying you. But okay,
should.
moving now to Charlotte. That was fantastic. We're going to get back to that. And you are currently completing which course at MIT as you head big data and AI at Safaricom?
It's called Chief Digital Officer,
Yes.
professional certification.
Yes.
So that's what I'm currently completing. In June. Can you just come now? I'm fully exhausted.
Yes.
But yeah, and the idea is just to, what I love about MIT, and they must just pay me for this, is that we get exposed to utilizing technology for good. And that's something that I'm very, very passionate about. It's for good for the customer, for the organization, but also just
For
bringing
humanity.
about change. Exactly. So that's the one part that I really love about the institution. I've done a few things with them in the past. And yeah, I'm looking forward to completing it and moving to something else.
You talked about a PhD during the break. Do you want to expound on that a little bit, or is it too early?
No, that's fine. I can expand. Firstly, before my sister calls me and tells me the difference between PhD and doctorate, it's not a PhD, it's a doctorate.
Okay.
But it's really around AI, especially AI ethics. You'll recall that we've just now, seen in our age the launch of ChatGPT, a large language model that can do many things that people thought is proprietary. I was just reading this morning some of the how much Microsoft has actually invested in this company. So Microsoft really wants to position themselves as the biggest player in everything AI at this stage. And then on top of it, all these other guys are coming up with their version of a large language model. What it does, it really democratizes all things information.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can code through it. You can literally prompt this thing to give you a code. So where does that leave? The formal education of coding, as it were. You can ask it to create a presentation or a prototype, especially in the product and development space. So really, where is this traditional way of education, IT, doing all sorts of things over 3-4 years? Now, then the big responsibility here is to what extent does that information, who owns the IP? That's
Yes.
number one. So if this ChatGPT summarizes books that people have written and comes up with some summary of it, can I then print this thing and sell it? And did I recognize the original contributors of that content?
Yes.
So that becomes a topic of ethics.
Yes.
Where do we then draw the line? Who actually regulates who regulates AI? And I think that's the topic that I want to go into, especially in line with my personal mission, that is AI for good, making sure that we actually use this thing for the betterment of humanity, not just for profits and not only for personal advancement, but to make sure that we leave this world in a better place that we found it in.
What are some of the risks? I remember Oppenheimer's famous quote, when he managed to, finally develop the bomb. I have become death, destroyer of worlds, What are the risks? I know we're here to talk about profit. I know we're here to talk about employability. But with every tool, there is the possibility for, you said you talk about for good, then there is for bad, So currently, as we see it, I'm going to start with you, Evelyn, then I'm going to go on to Charlotte. Anything that comes to your head about misuse, and as you've talked about copyright and IP, but what are some of the challenges, potential pitfalls that we could be facing?
So I think one is actually that the first thing that you mentioned, the misuse of AI. Because we'd normally sit down and we'll ask, okay, so for every piece of AI tool that you put out there, you always have to ask, how can it be used for good? And then what's the potential risk of it being used for bad? And the potential risk for it being used for bad is extreme, right? So, and I think it's important to actually have people and organizations that actually sort of safeguard the utilization of AI.
Oversight.
Yes, oversight of how is this AI actually being utilized? Because so I was listening to a story where it was actually a podcast, right? Where they were saying they run certain samples through an algorithm. So they'll put in certain samples and then they'll run it through. And then what they actually ask it is, can you predict some diseases that may be caused? And then they now start building medicine for it.
Yes.
And what they were saying is, I think something happened, and then they built something that was very powerful and had the potential to wipe out mass population.
I'm not going to talk about COVID. I'm going to pause
just
you. Yeah. I'm not going to say they were busy.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but then what they were saying was, within the lab, ethically, they had to kill this thing, because then they had to sit at a point where they were like, if someone actually accessed what this tool is able to do, then we are talking about catastrophic capabilities of what AI can actually do.
Elon Musk recently backtracked and said, guys, maybe we need to pause. You know, I know I'm always the Energizer bunny, but maybe we need to pause a little bit in terms of where we're going. So with regards to what you're talking about and oversight and regulation and the bodies that are going to be monitoring the development of AI, what are some of the pitfalls you are envisioning, and why did Elon say, actually, even as much as I've, invested a lot. I'm not going to go into Bill Gates because I didn't hear about the Microsoft investment. What are some of the pitfalls?
I mean, there's one doing the rounds now in the US where AI copies your voice. Yeah. And this is now through all this.
Am I about to be unemployed? Like, what is happening? Where are you going with this talk? where are you going?
So the ability to learn your voice and then call your family and say you are in trouble, send this money to here in order to have this person released, and then play that voice.
Yes.
And that's your voice.
I saw that. And this couple was really, the parents were distraught because they thought that their daughter had been kidnapped and that had potential harm. But the mother, I think, was like, I don't know, and called. And then the daughter answered and said, no, actually, I'm fine. I don't know what that is. And that's how they discovered it was a scam.
Exactly. So those are some of the pitfalls. And for us also, it's, and I love the organization that I work for because we are very much, we put customer first. So you remember that even with this large language model, the ChatGPT model, some of the people that worked on it were actually from Kenya. And the work environment and the setup was not conducive for any human being, honestly, to look at all of these utterances and classify them as whether good or bad and so on. And for me, through my upcoming studies, is actually to delve a little bit down on that and create policies and regulations around how do you govern this thing without stifling innovation.
Exactly.
So we are for innovation. It brings about efficiencies in the economic ecosystem, but it needs to be governed. And as you know, it's a learning algorithm. It's a learning system. Imagine what it can learn that goes way beyond our imagination, and therefore, if it's let loose, what it can do to the world.